Welcome, everyone. My name is Max Dugan. I am a craft brewer by trade. I work here at Urban Lodge Brewing. Now, Open Trail is a beer, and beyond that, it's a whole initiative and community movement to try and raise money and awareness for conservation, local conservation, outdoor communities. And this podcast, the Open Trail podcast, is really just an extension of that. We're going to be talking to a number of really great characters in and around Southern New England. Starting today with one of my old buddies here, Mr. Nate Sprague.
Yeah, man.
Nate Tree Sprague.
Nate Tree Sprague.
We're going to talk about your experiences on the Appalachian Trail and hiking. Before we get to that, I just want to cover a couple of things. First of all, the people who are making this possible today. First, Urban Lodge Brewing. I've been with Urban Lodge for about 5 years now. I want to thank them for helping me get this together and supporting this project from the beginning. I know we're going to talk to some really, really great people, and we're going to get the word out there and continue to raise money for good causes. They are located in Central Connecticut and Manchester and Hartford. We brew all of our beer in Manchester, and we just have a great team of people who are really providing a great community space for people more than anything. Secondly, we got a great crew of people here today who are making this possible. Quas Media, Manchester, Connecticut. They're a digital marketing firm who can make basically anything happen. They produce award-winning video magazine programs, digital signage systems, museum quality exhibits, phenomenal production team. And I want to thank them for helping make this happen. Now, Nate, you ready, bud?
I'm excited. I'm ready to chop it up.
I'm happy to have you as my first ever guest.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Nate, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your adventures. When I started this project and started thinking about some people I'd want to talk to, you came to mind right away. You have a lot of experience as, you call yourself like a through hiker?
Through hiker.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is that? A through hiker?
So through hiker is just kind of the word we use for like long distance hiking.
Yeah.
Like end to end, you know what I mean? So in the US there's 3 like long distance trails, the Appalachian Trail being one, Pacific Crest Trail being another, and the Continental Divide being the third.
Yep.
There's other longer trails too, but those ones are all over 2,000 miles. So we call it through hiking, you know? Yeah.
Before we're going to talk mostly about the AT, but before we even get to that, how did you end up here today? Like did you grow up hiking? Were you outdoorsy? Give me like some of your background.
Yeah. So I guess, quick synopsis. I grew up, in Manchester, but I had, my parents had a cabin in upstate New York. We traveled there a lot growing up, and it's very woodsy up there.
I've been to that area.
Yeah. Yeah. You came a couple times.
Very cool area.
It's just beautiful. We would go camping for the weekends, long weeks, whatever. So that's probably how like outdoorsy stuff started for me, and then going through college, I started studying anthropology, and we'd go like on archaeology digs and dig in the dirt and stuff. So just always outside, for me. And then hiking started. I was dating a girl who it was her dream to do the AT. And so just kind of put that on my radar. And then in 2017, we just went for it,
Yeah, I like how I think you told me like, you basically when you decided to hike the AT, you like didn't know what it was before then.
No, I'm not much of a preparer in that regard. I kind of just send it, you know what I mean? And I did like, it's good and bad, like I really like the experience of being surprised, you know what I mean? And like taking things as they come. Definitely could have benefited from having a little preparation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it speaks to your character as somebody who's pretty open-minded and willing to undertake a serious adventure, because first of all, let's talk the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail starts down in Georgia, right? Springer Mountain, Georgia.
Springer Mountain, yeah.
And runs throughout all of Appalachia, north to Mount Katahdin, right? In Maine.
Yeah, in Maine, yeah.
Like 100-mile wilderness, a very vast and very remote area. 2,200 miles or something, right?
Yeah, the year I did it was 2189. I think it's 2197 now. Just reroutes and such. Every year it changes a little bit.
So 2,000, just for easy math, 2,200 miles. What are you hiking every day? What are you shooting for?
For me, On the AT, I like to try to hit around 20 miles a day, give or take. You know what I mean? I have some days you have more energy or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm close to town, I'm low on food, I'm sending it. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting
Yeah.
into town for sure. And then just, yeah, it depends. You know, I had days that were as short as like 13 miles. And then I had days that were as long as like 28, 29 out there.
Yep.
But yeah, 20 is a good average for me, I think.
Like, was that exceptional? Were you around people where you kept running into them? And because this idea of through hiking it, you know, you do some math out, like what from start to finish, how many months are you out there?
I was on the AT. So I did the AT twice. The first time I did it, it was me and my girlfriend. We made it about halfway. We ran out of kind of money and time at the end. We were a little slow. We had a lot to learn. You know what I mean? Just so many like gear changes we had to make. And so then I did it again in 2021 solo. And that was, both experiences were about 4.5 months for me. So the one I did full, also 4.5 months.
It's relatively quick then. I mean,
I was quick. Yeah.
Most people 4 to 6 kind of being.
Yeah. At the beginning, it was really difficult for me on my solo journey because, you know, I had experience down south already. I kind of already knew where I was and what I was doing.
Yep.
So I was going pretty quick, you know, and a lot of people, like this is the trip of a lifetime for a lot of people. So they're taking their time. They're going kind of slow. I had a really difficult time meeting people at the beginning because I would just, hey, how you doing? And blow right by. You know what I mean? And then, so it was a little lonely for a bit, but then you do ultimately, like there's so many people out there. Somebody's doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like
it seems like from what I understand and people I've talked to that have done it, like a real tight knit community, even if you're not, you might not spend all that much time with the people, but you're kind of recognizing that you're in this thing together.
Yeah.
That is no joke.
100%, man. I think like everybody, there's just that understanding, you know, everybody has made sacrifices to be here. Everybody is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody wants to help you get to your goal. You know what I mean? Like I've had there's a phrase out there. It's called like the trail provides, you know, like I had so many circumstances where I would lose something or I would need something and it would just happen. You know what I mean? Somebody would either find it for me or, you know what I mean? Like for example, just silly example, I lost my sit pad one day, you know, and, I was all bummed out about it because now I got to sit on these cold rocks. It sucks, you know? Next day, some guy comes up behind me. He's like, hey, man, I have your sit pad. You know, like, I know it was yours, but I'm like, amazing. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes your day. Yeah.
I want to back up a little bit. When I explained where it goes, it's Georgia to Maine.
Yeah.
Very intentionally south to north because I don't know, I'll pull a stat out of thin air, but 90% of people are going to through hike it by going south to north.
I don't know if it's 90, but it's pretty close to it. Yeah. Almost
it's,
everybody goes north or south to north.
And there's a very logical reason for it. Weather and winter kind of being the main thing, right? If you're going to start, you're going to start in what month?
So I started, the first time we started on March 26th, just because like I was, you know, reading on Google and such, and I was planning on it taking about 6 months if we were to do it. So like in my head, I'm thinking Maine when I'm picking my start date, right? Because I don't want to be in Maine past like September, October. It's going to get really cold, you know? So I figured March was a good time, and it was, but it was pretty cold even down in Georgia, even then. So the second time I started, I actually started on May 1st, just because I didn't want to deal with it, you know?
Cold.
Yeah.
I used to work for a guy who hiked it back in the mid 90s, and he told me how, you know, I remember asking him, I was like, oh, you know, you go down in Georgia. I think he started maybe late February, early March. And I was like, yeah, it must have not been bad.
Yeah.
He's like 2 feet of snow first week. I'm
it
like,
caught me off guard really bad.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. No,
Georgia.
It was tough. It was very tough. I remember like there was a couple days like couldn't even leave the tent because I was too cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just really underprepared for something like that, you know?
The mental aspect of this entire adventure, I mean, that's probably got to be, because you're like you're a younger dude. You did it when you were, you know, relatively young.
Yeah.
You're in shape.
Yeah.
It's not that you're physically not, you know, you're not unprepared for it in that way, but this idea that you're just going to be walking mostly by yourself every single day. How did you deal with that? Like, how'd you deal with the passage of time? How did you deal with, you know, being alone with your thoughts all the time and dealing with basic fears and concerns about safety and health and all that?
That's a really good question. For me, like, the mental preparation for me is the whole game. You know what I mean? Like once I decided I wanted to do it, it was tough, especially when I decided I wanted to go alone the second time. There's a lot of time out there. It's a really good place. you know, like to try to look at it in a positive light. It's such a good place to like heal and process some thoughts, and just kind of work some things out if you need to do something like that.
Yeah.
As far as passing time, you know, I try not to listen to a ton of like podcasts and music and such, just because I really want to just be out there as much as I can.
Yep.
Ultimately, over the course of a hike, like 4 months in, 3 months in, I'll break down and be like, okay, today we can listen to some tunes, you know.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
You spend a lot of time, like, you think about a lot, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
But you think about, like, dude, it depends, you know, on the day. But food, you think about food a lot, you know,
Yep.
like you think about things you
get
miss
really
from home
hungry.
and such. You
Yeah.
do, yeah. Your mind kind of plays tricks.
Yep.
But yeah,
The food thing makes me laugh because
It's
just
always on
even
your mind.
sitting in sitting in the woods, which I do a lot of.
yeah,
and
sure,
Sitting for 6-8 hours straight.
yeah,
The way that time passes is just so different
It
when
is
you're
different.
not doing anything.
yes,
And I often tell people like that's one of the most difficult things about, be it, you know, hunting or fishing or whatever outdoor activity you get into.
hmm
You're just there by yourself. You're often very cold,
Mhm.
and it's just a mental battle
It's a
because
battle,
you're
yeah.
trying to sit still and you're
yeah.
fighting against time and yourself.
I admire like hunters and fishers in that regard because like for me, especially like when I'm hiking, I don't really sit still that much. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty much moving all day long. I'll take breaks, obviously, of course, but like
Yep.
if I start to get chilly, I don't have to like wait out the deer or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just let's warm up. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Yeah, that would be tough for me.
What you know, I know the first time you hiked it with someone, the second time alone. How did you prepare? And like this is a thing that a lot of people think about, and no matter what age you are, really, I think it comes from experience more than anything. Just being out alone and sleeping alone in the woods.
Yeah,
That's it can't be like overstated because people
it's a big
really
deal.
battle with that.
yeah, it's a big deal for like so. Again, like when I decided to go alone, I grew up, you know, camping and such, had spent 4 months hiking the AT with a partner. And then when I was going to go alone, I realized pretty quickly into the process how scared I was to spend a night alone in the woods because I never had, you know, even I've spent hundreds of nights in the woods, you know, but never alone. So for me, that was a really tough process. I would go, I remember I took a couple trips to the AT because the AT comes through Connecticut,
Right.
up by like Kent and Cornwall area,
Yep.
Salisbury. So I would go up there and just kind of like do a night, you know, do an overnight. And it went pretty bad a couple times, you know, like I bailed out because I would get really nervous or whatever for whatever reason. And then, you know, ultimately just, yeah, spend a couple nights, make it work, you know, kind of force yourself. Like I'm going hiking, so this needs to happen. And then you just get more comfortable, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Hey, this is Max, host of the Open Trail podcast. If you're enjoying today's conversation, then join the conversation every week. There are full episodes available on the Open Trail Podcast YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe. On top of that, follow us on social media at Open Trail Podcast. Most importantly, I want you to get outside and get after it with the people that you love and to build your relationship with the natural world. We, I wish we had a bunch of time to do, to cover some things, but I want to, I want to go through your bag a little bit.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, it's the 21st century. If you're listening or watching this, you have access to the internet and
Yeah.
you can find a gear list like that.
Totally.
But I want to kind of pick your brain and, you know, all these years later, what you know now, what do you wish you knew then?
Mhm.
And what things do you really value now? What items, what equipment, gear,
Yeah.
what can you go without and what can't you go without now that you've really had these long trips?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I think, you know, like I started out, I was carrying probably like 50, 55 pounds of gear, you know, which is a lot for somebody like me.
That is so
It's
heavy.
a lot, you know, like I
It's
weigh
so
130 pounds on a good day, you know, so it was a lot. But, you know, they say like you carry your fears. And when I'm starting out, I don't know anything, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't want to get cold. I don't want to like, I carried a medical kit that was like, it was like a hospital, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was unbelievable. And just like, so I guess what I would say, like for me, over the time, I've learned that investing in your gear is really important because like I have a lot of the same gear now. Like I have my 2 backpacks here now. My original one is just so much heavier than my lighter one. You know what I mean? But it's a big investment, you know, like my
Yeah, oh, yeah.
sleeping bag is half the weight. My tent is a quarter of the weight, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. But it's expensive. So unless you're really sure that you want to do something like this, it's kind of a tricky spot. You know, you kind of just use what you have.
Yeah.
As far as things like I couldn't go without, for me, like I have this little hiking umbrella. It's light. It weighs nothing at all. It's amazing for the sun. like amazing for the sun.
Nice.
It's so obviously for the rain. I can't leave my house without that. Obviously, you know,
it's
like,
looking pretty tattered.
yeah, it's been around. it's been to a couple.
Started GoFundMe for
This thing's probably got like 4,000 miles on it, man. This thing has been around.
That's awesome. While we're talking about it, why don't you grab your pack? I want to go through like a couple of things here.
Yeah, totally. I got everything in it pretty much that I brought this past summer, minus food and water.
That thing's as big as you, first of all.
Yeah, it's not bad though. It's light. You know?
There's your legendary ice pick.
There's the ice pick. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of explode it real quick. It's my sleeping pad. Folds out, you know, little sit pad. This is my tent. When I was on the AT, I used a hammock, but same thing, it just goes in here.
Every night.
Yeah,
or as much as you could. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Little pot for water, you know, my puffy coat. Just stop me when
you talk about stuff being light. The insulated down stuff that has just become like
it's incredible now. The technology, man. Yeah.
And it's so warm.
It's so warm, and it's you're carrying feathers. You know what I mean? Like, I have a little like sleeping pad in here that I blow up.
Yep.
Like inflatable. I guess this is probably where most of my stuff is. This is the bear can. Out west, you have to carry a bear can for a lot of the trail. It's kind of a pain in the butt because it's not the most comfortable thing to carry, but obviously it's great for what you got to do. So here's all my gadgets, man. Here's my pillow. I use this little guy for coffee.
Nice.
You know, clicks on there. Headband. Here's my spoon. You got I use this for my water, and then the filter screws on there.
Yep.
You know.
There's a few different ways in which people
should always dig a cat hole in the woods.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Don't learn how to take a number 2 in the woods.
You gotta learn how to deuce in the woods.
That's
an
an important thing.
Yeah. Here's that GPS.
Yep.
This is gonna start a whole can of worms.
No,
man.
I know. And I don't have time. I was gonna say one thing and now I forget. Oh, this idea of the bear can is very relevant because through the center of the trail, I mean, from really, I don't know, north of Georgia up into the whole thing, really.
So many black bears.
But there are so many black bears, especially North Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. There are a lot of bears.
They're talking pretty seriously about making the bear can required for the entire trail on the AT now.
And you got to do it for
because they're so uncomfortable, but I do understand it. Like,
you got to do it for the sake of the animals, for the sake of the species, because they're just going to be so acclimated to human food. And
well, people are just, you got to, like there's too many people. Not everybody's great about, storing their food and such. And once the bears know their food, there's food there, they're coming, so it's been an issue over there for sure.
I want to get, like, you send me over a whole list of this stuff.
I'll send you, I got pictures and such. Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've done like a full layout.
I have it all.
And everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Appreciate that. To give people like some perspective, you said starting out 55 pounds.
Yeah.
That is, first of all, a lot of weight.
Yeah. I try to carry like 20 now.
That's what I was going to ask. So you have shaved, you've cut it in half.
Tons. Yeah.
Are your like mental approach, it's like you're not carrying your fears anymore? Is that just the biggest part of it? Or is it that you've really learned, I just don't need these things?
I think it's that, like, your fears kind of change over time, right? Like, now I'm more comfortable with things. I know what my setup can handle. You know what I mean? I know what I can handle. There's just a lot of unknowns when you're starting out, So you just kind of compensate for that. And then,
you carry a lot of water too.
Water, it depends. Like on the AT, no.
What's your water plan? Like,
so I have, it's a little filter. It screws onto the top of a water bottle. It's called a Sawyer Squeeze. And it's, you just fill your water, you just filter through it, and it's drinkable. So the AT, there's so much water. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really have to carry I would maybe carry like a gallon at a time, or a liter, sorry. And that's it, and just fill up when you need it, kind of. You
mentioned to me once there's, again, we're in the 21st century, so it's so different now in how you approach a long trip like that. But there's some app that you mentioned where there's like this sense of community where people are helping one another by mentioning, here's what's going on here. It rained or whatever. Like there's water here. Here's what this town has to offer.
Yeah.
What is that app and how'd you use it?
So it's called Far Out is the name of the app. It's just, you download the map of whatever trail you're doing. It works offline.
Yep.
So it's really helpful on your phone because most of the time you don't have service out there. And it's all just user comments, like I was at this water source, it's dry, so don't count on it, that kind of thing. Or like, hey, this shelter is busted up, don't count on that or whatever. You know what I mean? It's such an advantage for hikers nowadays, man. Like before that app, people were just using maps or, like guidebooks and such, and you're just kind of out there on your own. Now I know where I am. I know what's going on. I know where the next water is. I know where the next camp is.
Yep.
It's easy. It's a huge advantage.
Do you ever carry paper maps?
I carry the guidebook. I did not on the PCT this summer, but I did on the AT both times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the guidebook? What are you referring to?
It's basically just like, it's a small book, maybe a couple hundred pages. It tells you, lays out like state by state, this is what mile marker you're at. This is where the shelters are. It's the same thing as the app is basically, you know what I mean? But obviously phone dies and such like that,
The app, like being in the 21st century and like all the access to information that we have now, there are great ways to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
I know that I use an app called Onyx. Yeah. And Onyx.
Yeah. They're kind of taking over actually. I think they're going to get rid of Far Out. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, sorry to hear that. Yeah. No, it's just a way in which Onyx, you're looking at satellite imagery and it's overlaid with property boundaries showing you what's public land, what's private land, who owns what. Okay. And it is such an informative way to see what's available to you, what's around, right? Yeah. And it's become such an asset to me in in finding new places to explore and adventure. I think we've talked about all trails. Yeah. All trails.
It's great.
Like if you're looking for a spot or you say you go to an area or you're on vacation or whatever it might be, or you're just getting into hiking, that's a huge benefit to people because it's like you're getting that user knowledge and feedback from people that's really more accurate than just maybe reading one person's opinion on a blog or through a book or a guidebook or whatever it might be.
It's like, it's pros and cons too, though, like I've found many circumstances where I get frustrated with myself because like, I'm out here, I'm doing this thing and I'm looking at my phone all day because I want to see where the water is. Like I could just walk to the water and like, you know what I mean? Have the real experience. Like, so that you got to kind of balance yourself a little bit, like it's a useful tool and you should have it, but like it can kind of take over if you let it, you know what I mean?
Oh
like, yeah.
I think that's like an important note for people who spend time outside or want to spend more time outside. It's this like thing where you can over prepare yourself with this kind of stuff. It's like, I'm focusing too much on the gear, the equipment and the apparel and the know-how. None of that stuff is really going to get you outside. The thing that's going to get you outside is you going outside.
They're just tools to make you more comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, exactly.
But it's like the only thing that's going to get you out there is making that decision
100%.
To say, no, I'm going to go do this.
It's a commitment at the end of the day, you know, like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Where
are you going next? What other trips have you done?
So I did the PCT Pacific Crest Trail this past summer. Yeah. Mexico to Canada on the West Coast through Cali, through Oregon, through Washington.
Which is so different.
So different, night and day different. Yeah. I mean, it's
the arid West that you're in.
There's so many different terrains out there, the animals, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm in the desert and then I'm in the high mountains, the Sierra, like this year was crazy because it was a high snow year. Yep. So, like just tons and tons of snow. I remember on day 20, I fell 250 feet down the mountain, sliding, and I like had to use my ice axe and stop myself. It was a wild time out there.
Pardon?
Huh?
You want to back up and tell me? I've never heard this. What?
So I bought an ice axe in San Diego right before I went hiking because, high snow year, you need an ice axe. You should do research on an ice axe. Like, and I had watched YouTube videos and such, but you should practice with it. You know what I mean? Before you go out there, you should know how to use it. I didn't, of course. So I get out there one day and I'm like, wow. I end up on this like kind of side trail coming down into town. And I'm like, it's really steep here, and it's all snow. So I should, I pull my ice axe out. I'm like, just in case, not 5 minutes later, I fall and I'm falling fast for like a long time. And I'm like, oh boy, and like just everything kind of clicks at once in my head. I'm like, you got to stop yourself, So I throw the ice axe down and I kind of skid out that way. And like I got up, my legs were shaking. It was a really wild time. Yeah, that was my 20th day on the trail. I'm in the desert. Like it was unbelievable.
How did you mentally get over that and restart?
That was a wild day, man, because so I was totally alone. I was taking, like I said, I was on a side trail. I was trying to get down into town. And like with all the snow, it was really obvious nobody had been down this side trail. There was no tracks, nothing like that, you know. So I had to go up over this kind of like mountain ridge to get down, and it was a really tough day. I remember getting to the after I had fallen, I got to like the top of the mountain where like I was cresting to go back down, and I just sat there for like 20 minutes, man. I was really having a tough time. I carry like a GPS thing, you know, and I was holding that. Like I was thinking pretty seriously about hitting the SOS button. I was like, dude, this is not a good situation, you know, but you just kind of rally, you know, and take it slow, get down, and makes a cool story after, I guess. But yeah, it was a wild time.
I should have asked you that. And now that we're kind of on this subject, we'll get into it a little bit. A thing that really does help people get over some of these fears is like an InReach, right? Yeah. So like this device in which no matter where you are, you don't need cell service, you don't need anything. You just have this little, you know, whatever, battery powered Garmin.
It's a great battery too. It lasts like several days.
Right. Yeah. So it's like you get in trouble, something happens, you can just push a button and there's a ping going out to someone.
Yeah. It's not immediate, but they're coming. You know what I mean?
I think it helps people get over that just general what if, right? The whatabouts and the what ifs that keep people from doing big adventures. Yeah. What other is there anything else that you're going to carry and have on you that you're just like, I can't go without it? Like I do need to, after all this experience that, like you mentioned a med kit before, do you still keep something on you I
still carry a med kit, but it's much smaller now, you know, like it's like triple antiseptic for cuts and stuff like that. Like if you get seriously hurt, you have a problem, you know, like now you have your Garmin, you got to call for help. But like for the most part, I'm just worried about like scrapes and things like that. You know, I carry like a poison ivy cream because for some reason I always seem to get poison ivy when I'm hiking. It's small now, you know, for sure. Sorry, I forgot the question.
If there's anything else that really you can't go without because you're concerned. I mean, it could be health wise too. Like the poison ivy thing. Are you like, again, if you're out for a week, 2 weeks, or do you have Pepto or ibuprofen? I mean, something just like that.
Ibuprofen, they call
really basic.
They call ibuprofen vitamin I on the trail because people just hate it so much.
Trail candy, yeah.
I'm very proud of myself to say I have never taken one on either trail. But yeah, some people just live and die by it, man. Like they're just in so much pain every day. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's pretty wild.
Well, you know, you're young too, which is a major advantage.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky, knock on wood. Yeah, for sure.
You had in that same trip on the PCT. Give a quick background. I know you said Mexico to Canada, but you're going through California, right? Yeah. Through the high Sierra Mountains, which is some Mojave serious elevation, up to 14,000 plus.
Yes.
And then Oregon, Washington.
Yeah.
What, how does that differ from the AT? How does that differ from East Coast hiking in general?
I think the AT is like the AT, I don't want to speak badly about it at all because the East Coast is my home and it always has been. But like the AT is very similar the whole way up and down. You know what I mean? Like I guess the whites are kind of different. You know what I mean? Up in New Hampshire, it gets pretty wild up there. But like for the most part, you're just kind of in this green tunnel forest. You know what I mean? Like, and it changes, of course, but like it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like the landscapes are very similar. It's just for me, I'd never even been out west, you know? So like my first day on the trail was my first day in the desert. And I'm like,
really,
this is pretty wild, you know? Like, and then like I said, you go up 14,000 feet and that's a whole new world to live in, you know? And then like the burn areas of Oregon are something to deal with. There's huge water carries out west, like, you know, like long time, like whole day, you know what I mean? Where now you're carrying
because it's just dry and it's not, I mean, relatively speaking, this, you know, Appalachia is just way wetter.
You can pretty much count on water being available every couple hours on the AT. Yeah.
How, I mean, like kind of what you're getting at with the dryness or the heat or the elevation, was there anything else? Cause I know, you mentioned like rattlesnakes too, which is not something, even though we have them here.
Yeah.
And I'll spend a moment on this topic because that's just like my personal
don't like them
my Achilles heel. It's like, I'm pretty good about most general heights that people had claustrophobia and heights. I said general heights, general fears.
Yeah.
Fear of heights and confined spaces, and I'm not, you know, spiders don't bother me, all that stuff. But it's like the idea of stepping on a venomous snake is just gets to me.
So we have them over here on the East Coast. Like everybody I've ever hiked with on the AT is like, yeah, I've seen a rattlesnake out here.
Not far from here either.
I've never seen them personally, but obviously they are there. I saw like 6 on the PCT. You know what I mean? I remember the first one I saw, like I didn't see, you know what I mean? And I'm just walking by, like it's like right here, and I step and I'm like, you immediately know what that is. Like your brain, your instincts just kick in. I'm like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And like your heart starts pounding.
It's primal.
It's wild, man. I had one night. So I did a lot of cowboy camping when I was over there, which is like no tent, just kind of throw your stuff, sleep under the stars, you know? I had one night, like go near my head, just start hissing. Like I'm just about to fall asleep and just, I'm like, oh, hell no. You know what I mean? Like crazy. Yeah. And then like, I mean, even like I saw a cougar over there. That was pretty wild.
Which is a rare sighting. I mean,
I think so.
They're around, but people will spend a lot of time outside and just not see them.
Yeah, I think usually like they see you type thing. You don't really see them, you know?
Far more often.
Yeah, that was I would imagine I didn't like that experience at all. I was all alone, you know, but yeah.
It's like the snake thing I relate to like your ice pick story, like starting back up after it. Like you just feel a little shook up. And I've had that experience hiking here, but in Washington State in the arid high desert, where you come across a rattlesnake, and just that moment after, it's so difficult to take those next steps because you're just like
so timid.
You feel like, stuck.
Yeah, I know.
But I've also found that those next steps are the ones where you're just like it's so direct. You're like, no, I'm growing. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. And like, you just have to get over it.
And like 10 minutes later, you're like, that was wild. You know what I mean? You feel so fired up about it, you know? Yeah. It just, you have to keep going, you know?
For all my, my fear over them, I had this moment where I was coming down, I was watching an elk herd out in Washington. I think I actually had my dog with me too. Mm-hmm. And, it was like a wildlife management area. And I'm walking back toward the National Forest Road where I'd parked. And here's this rattlesnake and I'd seen a bunch by then, but here's this one it's not dead yet.
Okay.
It's just getting eaten alive by hornets though. I was like, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I can't. It's just this brutal moment.
I'm too scared to help you or not.
I can't do anything. I just felt, anyways.
Happens quick too, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just come up on things. Yeah.
That's in the surprise, the shock factor is a big thing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a break here just so we can thank our sponsors again.
Definitely.
The Open Trail podcast is sponsored by Urban Lodge Brewing Company, creators of amazing handcrafted beer, food, good times, and great memories, with locations in Manchester and on Pratt Street in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. And Quas Media. Located in Manchester, Connecticut and Nashville, Tennessee, Quas Media is an award-winning digital marketing firm producing video, digital signage systems, and interactive digital experiences.
All right. Just to remind everyone, we're sitting here today with Nate Sprague, AT through hiker, PCT through hiker. I want to just bring it back to where we're at right now in Connecticut, or New England. Like you talked about, the AT runs through Connecticut for about 50 miles or so.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if people want to experience the AT in Connecticut, you can start with a bunch of places, but Bear Mountain is personally one of my favorites.
Right on the AT. It's it's a beautiful hike.
Highest peak in Connecticut. You get a great view from up there. It's way up in the northwest corner.
It's a little challenging.
Yeah, it's a solid hike.
Yeah, it's a good day hike.
What other places around here are you getting after?
Yeah, for me, like, I mean, just being from Manchester, man, I live at Case, like there's a lot to do up there. There's really, but if you wanted to get beyond that, like, I mean, the Metacomet Trail, I think it's like 60 miles. There's a whole system going through like the center of the state. I think it's like the Housatonic River has a bunch of hikes. Tunxus has a trail. There's a lot of hiking in Connecticut. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
You said something about the New England Trail. Are you doing that?
I hope to do. I'm pretty sure I'll do the New England Trail this as soon as the weather gets nice. It's like 200 miles or so. Goes through from Connecticut to Mass. I wrote it down here because I forgot. Yeah, ends in Northfield, Mass,
right.
And kind of near Brattleboro, Vermont. Yeah, and it goes all the way down through like Guilford, Connecticut.
So you're basically following 91 roughly.
Yeah, I think it actually goes on the Metacomet for a lot of it.
That's probably about
kind of pops in and out.
80 miles, something like that.
The whole trail?
Yeah, the
whole trail is about 200 from Connecticut to Mass.
Oh, so it does quite a lot of zigzagging.
It does, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm excited about that, though. I'm like, that's definitely in the works. Bigger projects, I would love to do the Colorado Trail this summer. It's kind of it's on my radar. I'm not sure if I'll get everything organized or not in time, but that would be great. I would love to do the Colorado Trail.
And then you did mention it earlier, but the Continental Divide.
Yeah.
Is that on your radar at all?
It's got to happen. So we call it like the triple crown of through hiking,
right.
Like I got to have that triple crown, man. I got two.
Do you have that mindset of like you're trying to check stuff off a list now, or is that not really how you approach it? I
wouldn't say it's that way, no, but like they're all on my mind. You know what I mean? Like all the time. Yeah. For me, it's every chance I can. Like, in between hikes of the AT and the PCT 2000, I did the AT in 21, PCT in 23. I did the long trail in 2022, like they take like 3 weeks, these hikes. So they're much more, they're easier to plan, like 6 months is a long time.
The long trail for people here, because that's relevant. Vermont.
Yeah, Vermont.
Which there's some overlap with the long trail and the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, like half of
they run together for quite some time.
Almost 100 miles, I think. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you can do any sections of this. I think, we've been talking a lot about the long-term through hiking and stuff, but really you can get out section by section. You could do a loop. You could do an out and back. You can do, if you want someone to drop you off and you do a single overnight,
if you have a partner,
and
take
you say,
two
pick
cars.
me up. Take 2 cars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to approach it where people can kind of, get into just like really like the idea of the much bigger thing.
Yeah, you don't like I kind of get crazy with it. You know what I mean? Like I just go for these big long things. It doesn't have to be that way. Like if you want to go for a weekend, if you want to go for a day, it's very possible. There's so much to do here, just anytime you can get outside, it's awesome. Like you should try to do it if you can.
I like to say when trying to rally the troops for people that kind of care about conservation, I commonly will say something like, I don't care if you are spending weeks alone in the backcountry or if you just walk your dog at the local park.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you're spending time outside, and guess what? That park and that backcountry, they're generally made the same, like they're made possible through the same sort of mechanisms and people working to make it happen. It doesn't just happen by accident. And it's something that, that's reason why Open Trail exists, a reason why we do what we're doing.
That's why, like, I'm super proud that you asked me to be out here today, because I think like you've been a great ambassador for the outdoors, man. Like, just the idea of like you talk about it all the time. Like, the more you're out there, you care about the land now, you care about the conservation, keeping it clean, things like that, And when you asked, I was just super pumped. I was like, yeah, I'd love to be a part of this,
Yeah, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. Conservationists are not born. They're made from lived experiences.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't have one without the other, because the conservationists who are keeping these, this access and keeping it possible for people to do it, they're in turn just bringing up the next generation of people.
Well, right. Yeah, absolutely. They're all just nature lovers in the end, have kids and such, and bring them outside.
Well, man, I can't believe we're already out of time. I think I'm just going to have you back on ASAP.
Amazing. This is so much fun.
Especially after some, another adventure that you have.
Yeah.
I'm going to take 30 seconds to tell Nate, you're a talented musician. Take 30 seconds to tell one of the funniest stories. I love this story. I don't even know if it's like fully true or not, and I don't care.
Okay.
I've told probably 50 people this story because I think it's so funny.
All right.
You were playing a show with your band at a legendary Connecticut place, Toad's Place down in New Haven.
Yeah.
And I think you were opening for someone else, and the manager kind of cuts you off, and he's like, "You're done." And someone in the band argued, like, "No, we're doing one more. We're doing one more."
Yeah.
And then you played one more.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "All right, you're done. Like we're going on." And then you're like, no, come on, one more.
Yeah.
Just one more. He's like, he's getting pissed at you guys.
Kind of got kicked out of Toad's Place that night.
So he's like, "Fine, one more."
Yeah.
What do you play? Like Ozzy Osbourne's 12-minute War Pigs.
It's the encore, man.
It's the funniest. It's like the most like immature.
Listen,
when
you get an opportunity, you just got to grab it sometimes,
And that was the night you were banned from Toad's Place.
That was the night. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be back there.
Oh. Well, you are going to be back here. That's a good thing.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much.
No, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Keep getting after it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk soon, huh?
Awesome, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.